Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Lorena Creole, and hold on one second because my mic is really weird. That's freaking driving me nuts. It's driving me nuts. Okay. Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Lorena Creole, bringing you that spice to sci-fi and pop culture analysis, and of course, keeping it real when it comes to theme parks. And this is the after school special show where I introduce you guys to someone out there in the fandom, people that I come across on other shows, and I'm like, I need to sit down, talk to that person. So that's what this particular show is about. There isn't a regular schedule to it. It's just whenever I can grab people and we record. Hey, a couple days later, that's when the premiere drops. And our guest today, I'm very excited about talking to. I actually got introduced to her through her of positive fandom, and what caught my eye about her was her avatar. So I can't wait to talk to her about that and other things. So want to introduce to you and reintroduce to others Retro Nerd Girl. How are you doing, my dear?
Very, very good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, and so glad to have you on to finally talk to you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Oh, awesome. I'm so glad. I mean, for no joke, I saw your avatar and I was just like geeking out because there's so many retro cartoons and movies that I used to watch when I was a kid because my parents couldn't afford cable. So it kind of was stuck with whatever happened to be playing on antenna TV and whatnot. So I'm kind of like, okay, whatever's there. So would always see like these retro films, like especially 50s and 60s sci-fi and monster shows,
Oh,
kung fu
cool.
theater shows. So I've seen all kinds of stuff like that. So that retro stuff holds like a special place in my heart. So when I saw your avatar, I'm like, God, that's so freaking cool. I love it.
Awesome. I'm so yeah, I'm the same, that's why I was kind of drawn to make the channel that I made. So it I love retro stuff, and like you, that's we did eventually get cable.
Yeah, we did. My parents did too after I left the house, and then they got cable.
But yeah, late night TV or those Saturday morning cartoons, that kind of stuff. Um, I grew it. They helped to raise me, if you will. So,
Yeah, I get you. Same here. Just all that stuff that I would sit and like watch and keep myself busy. Like one of the cheesiest retro movies that I could never get enough of had to be, I think it was the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad or something with the Ray
oh
was in stop motion.
yes, that is my jam right there. Yeah, I love all the Harryhausen movies, and especially all the Sinbad movies. I think he made three of them, and they're all amazing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's a good one. The Seven Voyage. Yeah. That's good stuff right there.
I tell we're gonna have a blast on this show. This show today.
Oh
So I'm
man.
gonna ask you the first. Well, we always ask everyone this question on this show. What are your memories of lunchtime at school?
Oh, well, I was really underdeveloped when I was a little girl, and so was basically at the outcast table if I was with anybody. Even they didn't want me because I was so little.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was the classic nerd growing up. Um, and it was not well, I would say more geek. because it wasn't that I was school smart. I just looked awkward and weird. And so my lunchtime was basically spent trying to not have anyone look at me so that I would
Mm-hmm.
not get in any trouble with anybody else. Staying like trying to be as invisible as possible and trying
Mm-hmm.
to hold down the lunch food because the lunch food was terrible.
Man, because that brings me into my second question. If you had pizza, was it square or round?
It was square. Yeah. They did square with us. Oh, sometimes we had round ones, but it was
Oh.
square most of the time. Very yeah, that was about the most exciting thing you could have in the school lunchroom, actually.
Oh, I remember that. It's like, we got pizza, really? It's like, oh, it's square, but well, there's cheese and there's, crust and tomato sauce on it. So I guess it's okay. I mean, I grew up in suburban Philadelphia, so we knew what really good round pizza tasted like, but
Yeah.
we got the square pizza in schools. Yeah, okay, okay. But that
Yeah.
seems to be par for the course of like, yeah, that square pizza. Ugh, yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and it's so funny because you know, in like in outside of school, I lived in New York and grew up in New York, and my mom would take me to. We'd just pass by pizzerias, and the smell that came from those pizzerias it was so good. And they did have the square slices, and they were fantastic. I forgot what they were called,
I think
but
it's
they
Sicilian style.
Sicilian, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were so good, and they had lots. They were doughy, but they had so much cheese and delicious sauce. But school pizza is just like, yeah. I think they use ketchup for the.
It wouldn't surprise me. It was like the most tasteless
Yeah,
thing ever. I'm just like, I know pizza is not supposed to taste like this, but yeah, okay, okay,
yeah.
and it'll work. And then eventually we started getting French bread pizza, which was really good,
Ooh,
probably because of the bread.
yeah. That's fancy.
Yeah, I went to one of those schools where, I mean, the food was and then I don't know who paid off who, but a catering company started
What?
like catering all of like all the cafeterias. So we were kind of like, oh, this is pretty good. We'd have like a salad bar once a week. That was the only time people paid attention to the announcements over the loudspeaker, is if there was no salad bar that day.
Yeah.
Because that was a big deal. Like, oh, okay, but what do you mean there's no salad bar today?
Yeah, no, I mean salad seems like not a big deal. But it's just refreshing. I like a good salad. We never had that in school. It was mashed potatoes and like sometimes there'll be like a steak, but it was so hard with nasty sauce. And then
Ugh.
yeah, and then every once in a while we'll have French fries. That was the only thing that they did right was French
Wow.
fries.
They
And
were
they did
nice, fried
yeah,
hot.
yeah, they did the wedges, but
Hmm.
like not the good stuff, but like the frozen stuff that they just kind of heat up a little bit for you.
Yeah, bring it out the freezer, rip open a bag, and dump it on on the sheet.
Yeah, and they gave you a couple packets of ketchup, and that was your fruit.
Hmm. Yeah, I always found just lunch to just be very interesting, kind of like, because like for me, it's like I had to keep like my geek activities kind of like under wraps, but I was kind of like that girl. It's like when I was at lunch, I didn't really want to have to freaking deal with people. I had like my
Mhm.
book I wanted to read. I didn't really want to have to deal with people, but eventually I'd get sucked into, hey, come sit with us, or no, we don't like you this week, so you can sit by yourself. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go over and sit by myself. Then sometimes, when I got into like high school and some of my friends, we would have lunch like at the same time. Like my tight
Mm.
group of friends, and they asked, "Well, what are you watching?" Or just like, "Yeah, I'm watching this, and I'm watching this sci-fi show, and I saw this, and maybe one day, maybe we can get our parents to drive us to a convention." I'm like, "Yeah, good luck on that happening." Know?
That sounds cool.
But we would kind of do, stuff like that. Lunch was kind of where I could kind of have time to myself to kind of do my own things, and people would kind of drop in. What am I doing? What am I watching? Kind of things,
Yeah.
like that. So it's always an interesting question to ask people how they spent their lunchtime, because some people were like, "Oh yeah, I was outside smoking," or one guy was like, "Yeah, I was trading comics for food."
Yeah, yeah, not my lunches were a lot like yours, where I spent a lot of time alone, or like every once in a while, some people would invite me as well. But I was sometimes hadn't done them homework from the night before. So
Mm,
so I was like, okay, let me hurry up and do the homework for for the next class.
I hear
Um
you.
I am ashamed to say that, but I did that.
We've all
Um,
done it.
yeah,
We've
it's
all
like,
done it.
yeah, I mean, that was my lunch hour, or half, not an hour, but it was whatever lunch period.
Hmm.
And at some point, I was actually, what was really hard for me was I was a vegetarian growing up, and
Oh,
at one point was a vegan. And so that was kind of tough navigating what to get in school. And a lot of times the teachers would think that they were concerned that I wasn't eating during lunchtime, because they would have like hot dogs. I mean, oh, the worst hot dogs. And they would have a lot of meat, like chicken, and I couldn't eat it. So I'd eat like an apple and whatever
hmm.
veggie side they had. And so, um, you know, that was, I guess that's another reason why I was so small. I wasn't eating enough food. So looking back on that, at it now, I'm like, Mommy, you should have let me eat some meat.
We good meat, right? Yeah. I
Yeah.
I tried to, well, I never really went like vegetarian really. And I think the closest that I got to vegan was one place where I worked. This lady would come by with like a food truck, and all she did was make cupcakes. And one day she was out of like these double chocolate cupcakes that I like. She's like,
Ooh.
"Well, I have a vegan cupcake you can try." I'm like, "Excuse
Oh
me?
gosh.
Are you serious? A vegan cupcake?" She's like, "Okay." She said, "I'll tell you what." He said, "You try this. If you don't like it, I'll give you your money back." I'm like, "Okay," because you do make some really, really good cupcakes. So if you're telling me this is good, fine, I'll try it. And I did, and it was really good. It
Oh,
was really good.
good.
So I don't know
Yeah.
if it was. I think I give. I'm much more into, if it's a baked good and it's vegan, I'll eat it because of just it's sweet and all the ingredients in it. I'll eat that, but that's
Yeah.
probably like the closest thing to vegan that I will ever do.
Well, believe it or not, I'm a vegetarian. I'm more of a vegetarian than a vegan right now. It's just, I for some reason, I have some medical issues with eating meats
Hmm.
right now, and I don't know why. But it's totally fine. There's a lot of delicious foods to eat as a vegetarian, but I think, it's whatever you feel comfortable with, right? If you feel comfortable, like if you want something satisfying and you think, a steak is gonna do the trick, go ahead and do it. enjoy yourself. You got only one life, you know.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I told my dad once I forget which dinner I made. I think I made like I think I made lasagna. It was like cheese lasagna, something I like threw together. And he's like, "There's no meat in it." I said, "It's not going to kill you to have a meal with no meat in it. Just one. It's not. It's not. It's not gonna. It's not gonna kill you." And I've seen some like vegetarian chefs that will put stuff together that just look absolutely
Oh yeah.
um like
They've gotten so good
delicious.
with it.
Yeah,
Because when I
it's
was coming up, in like I said, in the 70s and 80s, I mean, there really wasn't any choice at all. You had a very small, limited choice of foods that you can eat,
mhm.
and even the 90s. But now there's so many things that they make that they make that's pretty tasty. It's pretty tasty. So, either way you go, you can't lose.
I hear you. I hear you. So I'm gonna ask because I'm curious. What is your favorite vegetarian meal?
I don't have one. I just I guess it used to be pasta. I used to love, love, love pasta. Just pasta with pasta sauce and butter. Yum. Um,
Mm.
but nowadays, I just eat whatever. Pasta is a bad thing now because it's got so many carbs, and you got to watch how much carbs you have. Don't want to get diabetes or anything like that. So I try to be, I think my favorite right now is like rice and beans. And I had a taco today. It was a veggie burger taco, and it was delicious.
Yeah, well,
But
good.
yeah, and well, you know what? I guess to say my favorite vegetable is broccoli. That's my favorite vegetable.
20 years ago, I would say, heck no, I don't want to eat broccoli. Now, I have found probably like 10 different ways to make broccoli. Like my favorite is like broccoli with olive oil on it
Ooh.
and like Cajun spice on it, just broiled. It's like
Ooh.
some of the tastiest freaking stuff now. Yeah,
Oh yeah, that sounds really good. I gotta get some Cajun spice.
it's it's good.
Put
Slap
that
your mama Cajun spice. Get that some good stuff.
on. Oh yeah, Cajun spice makes everything taste better.
It does. It does. I said that's an indispensable spice for me for me to have. I love it. So I know we touched on this already, but how did you come up with the name Retro Nerd Girl and what got you started with a YouTube channel?
Um, Retro nerd girl just seemed to fit um my personality and what it was I was doing. Um,
Mhm.
and I guess I guess to start at the beginning when I started my channel, I created my channel because I wanted to make a movie, and I also
Oh.
in yeah, I mean, I wanted to make a bad movie, if you will. I wanted to make a low budget movie with a great story, and so I was trying to analyze what consisted or what were the ingredients to make a great story. And
Mhm.
the genre I was really looking at was mostly science fiction. And so I went into like a lot of old movies that I used to love watching when I was a kid, like The Day the Earth Stood Still and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have $200 million to make their films, but they're such good stories, and they're like, I don't know, 90 minutes maybe or an hour and 15 minutes.
Mhm.
So we get to the modern day where we have a lot of movies that are like they're longer, and they're again $200 million, and yet there's it still lacks like verisimilitude, it lacking story and like that feel good moment at the end of seeing a movie that you really enjoy. You know, it's a lot of these movies are lacking that. So I was just fascinated by old movies and what they had that was so special. And when I went to YouTube to look up, you know, what people had to say about these old movies, it was a
Hmm.
lot of the same complaints like the special effects suck, you know, this, that, the other. I'm like, wait a minute, you don't understand. In order for us to get to the special effects we have now, we had to have those older special effects. So I started to also like think, okay, well, if I'm going to come up with a channel, you know,
Hmm.
what am I going to do with this channel? Like, what am I going to say? One thing I decided was I was going to pick movies I truly loved. So every movie I review, I like actually love these movies. These are movies I've seen hundreds of times. You know, so I'm able to extract information from them that other people can't see. And so it's kind of been sort of a love letter to my childhood, you know, and I'll just
Hmm.
say, like, before this experience, I'd always kind of looked at my childhood as like, I didn't have enough this, I didn't have enough that, because I was from a single mother home. And I was always from a picture like if I, you know, maybe if I was from another family, I would have this or that. But one thing my mom really did for me was she introduced me to a lot of these movies. We share in common the love of these movies, and um, I it brought to me the concept or the knowledge that wait a minute, it's your upbringing that helped to facilitate your love for these movies and these wonderful memories that I have attached. So it's kind of a beautiful flower that's kind of like blooming for me in that sense. And that's pretty much how the channel got started.
Wow. I love that story. And God bless your mom for giving you such a wonderful gift of
Ah,
appreciating,
yeah, yeah.
you know, movies like that. I mean, I kind of felt like that a little bit, like from my child is like, you know, my parents didn't have cable or anything like that, and I just had to watch, you know, these old movies and everything. But once I got like to college and started connecting with other people, like, yeah, I saw that movie repeatedly over and over and over again. And then this television series came out called Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, they're watching some of these same movies that I used to watch. And the commentary, it would just crack me up so
Oh,
much. But these movies, there was just something about them that just like people just loved watching them from that era,
mhm.
just watching them, never, you know, getting enough of them, loving to like put like their own social commentary and spin on it
Oh,
at the same time. But you're absolutely right. It's like the effects weren't all that great. I mean, they were good for their time. It's like, you know, they were great for their time. But the thing that pulled you in was, you know, the story. Like one of my favorite monster movies is The Bride of Frankenstein, because at the crux of that story,
yeah.
Frankenstein wants somebody to love him and she does not at, you know, at
Yeah.
all. So at the crux of that is, you know, is the story like Creature from the Black Lagoon,
Oh, that's
you
such a
know,
good.
all he wanted was to get together with a pretty girl and she didn't want to.
Oh, yeah.
But that was one of my favorite movies to just watch over and over again. And we actually had a watch party on my channel for the Welcome to Florida show because it was shot. The
Uh-huh.
underwater scenes were shot in Florida, and everybody's fascinated with
Oh, yeah.
just the mechanics of the movie. How
Mhm.
did they put that, you know, that whole outfit on? Look at how much drama and
Yes.
suspense. they put into the movie just by seeing, the hand or
Ah,
some, brush going on, or you see the person scream. You don't see the creature there. And it's just like these tricks that they did with
yeah.
the film that just makes it so interesting to watch to this day.
Oh yeah. I mean, it astounds me that they, especially that movie in particular. There's one scene underwater that's taken it all in one. It may be like about 40 seconds, but it just shows this, the creature underwater, sort of swimming underneath the girl, and
Yes.
it's like I'm like, I can't even imagine pulling that off today. Like, unless you're like, and then I'm not sure even how they did it. I haven't researched that movie for that, but it's one of those things that make you, it just kind of drops my jaw, as I'm watching, like, wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. And the mood, the music, the lighting, everything. It's just all set up for this feeling that you have of like foreboding, like, oh no, he's
Hmm.
gonna grab her. She can't breathe underwater. You're afraid for her. You're afraid he's gonna be found. So there's a lot of tension, and that's what's missing, I think, from a lot of movies. They think that tension means horror, scare, like an actual jump scare. That's not tension. Jump scares are not tension to me. It's like, okay, a jump scare, it's here, it's gone. What's really scary is knowing, like, that your society is going to kill you at 30, like Logan's Run. Like,
Logan's Run. That's another good one.
yeah, that's scary. Like, you have there has to be a fear that's so much greater than just that 1 second that a jump scare is, and then they throw up the music really, like, dong, like, and you're supposed to jump out of your seat, and it's like, no, that did not scare me. Okay. That didn't
I
scare me.
I get you. It's like we were watching Halloween, actually. It's a watch party on my channel. And we kept commenting about it's an hour into this movie. He hasn't killed anybody, but you feel like you've been watched the whole entire movie. You see Michael Myers, stalking Laurie Strode little by little.
Mhm.
And when you think it's a jump scare, it's not. It's just like some person, but you're so on edge because of the tension that they built up that you're like, oh my God, what's going on? And then it's only, I would say, the last half hour of the movie where you actually see Michael Myers starting to like kill people trying to get to Laurie Strode. But you're so into it because there's so much tension built up through for that long. And a
Mhm.
lot of movies are missing that, especially horror movies. And that's what my chat kept remarking on, and my panel was just like, we've been in this movie for an hour and I feel like I haven't taken a breath because I'm so caught up in everything. And
I
even with
haven't seen
oh,
that
go ahead.
in such a long time, and so you're making me wanna see it again.
It is so worth seeing again, especially consider don't watch Halloween Ends. Just no, just don't.
Yeah,
It's
no,
it's so bad.
I
It's
haven't
so
watched
awful.
any of the sequels after, the 3rd one, which I actually enjoyed the Season of the Witch. It was silly. It
I
was
haven't
silly.
seen that one. I did watch Halloween H2O, which I did like. Pot, and the reason I liked it is because Janet Leigh had a cameo in it. And
Oh.
she was in front of the same car that she drove in the movie Psycho.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing. Yeah. I haven't, it's been a while. I may have seen H2O. I am not a big horror movie fan, except
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of the stuff that is definitely pre 90s. For some reason, all that stuff is like gold to me. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, I was like, nope, I'm done. I think it was, I went to the movie to see Arachnophobia, and then that was it. That was the last horror movie I went to the movies to see.
Oh, I remember that one,
It was just
Arachnophobia.
jump scares the whole time. I'm like, where's
Yeah.
the fear? And I'm afraid of spiders. That movie should have had me in a puddle.
Uh, and another one, and kind of go back to Creature from the Black Lagoon. Another thing that I noticed when watching that movie, I kept thinking about the movie Jaws
Oh,
because
yes.
you don't see first you don't see the shark at all.
Oh,
The lady just gets pulled under. You think something touches her, and you don't see the shark at all. Then you see like a fin, and it's like you just hear this ominous music going on, and I'm like, I think Spielberg was watching the Creature from the
yes.
Black Lagoon when
Yeah,
he came up with that. It was uncanny because, like you're saying, with the music and how
yeah,
ominous the music was, and then you're thinking about like the music from Jaws, how you know when the shark is coming,
yeah.
just
Was
how much that works together.
Yeah, what a masterpiece, I think. Yeah,
Hmm.
the beginning scene is is kind of like, it's not gory at all. You don't see anything except for her being pulled under, and it's
Hmm.
like, from what I believe, from my memory, I think it's silent after they she's pulled under, and like you don't get you're not like, oh, there's a body part in the head, and we don't need to see the guts and all that stuff. We know what happened, right? And then when they find her later on,
Hmm.
that's when they show us the damage. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, she was such a young, beautiful girl.
I know, and that's what happened to her. But it's like they built up the story. They put enough in your head to say, "Oh my gosh, what was it that pulled her under? And was it really that bad?" And they made us wait and build up the tension until we
Yes.
actually saw what it was, and it's just like, "Oh man, that's just." Oh, but I like how they made us wait for that, and that's something that they modern cinema really
Oh,
hasn't been doing. There is one retro movie that I'm going to ask you about because I had
okay.
been warned off of it for years, and then I saw a trailer for it at the Sci-Fi Dine-In restaurant at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and that would be Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Okay. It is a it's for if you are okay with a bad, this is like the baddest movie ever made, almost. Like, it's the room is like Oscar worthy compared to this movie.
Oh my
It's really bad.
god.
But it has, Bela Lugosi's in it, his final film,
Mhm.
and it's got it's got charm, is what it does, and it's a timepiece. So I mean, I watch it every once in a while for giggles. I mean, just if you're like, do you drink at all? Do you drink alcohol at all?
Rarely.
Well, whenever the rare moment is that you do, you can like watch that show and definite that movie, and you'll crack up. It's really like a silly movie meant to have you're meant to have fun with it,
Mhm.
because it's also see it, you can see it with a group of people, like, or you could do like a watch party or something like that. Um, have you seen the movie Ed Wood?
Yes.
Okay, so that's basically the, you know, the documentary for or mockumentary for that movie. So, watch it again, and then it'll refresh you to all of what's going on behind the scenes. And then when you watch it, you'll be like, oh, it'll all tie in together. Um, what was happening in real life versus what
Uh-huh.
what you're seeing on screen.
Oh man, because I have been warned about that movie. I have been warned about it repeatedly. I mean, when I saw the trailer, there were people eating around me like, "Oh, that movie was freaking horrible."
Oh yeah, it's so yeah, it's pretty bad. Even for a person who loves bad movies like me, it it's a movie that, again, you're meant to have fun with it, know how
Mhm.
bad it is, and what's going on behind the scenes is basically everything that was in the movie Ed Wood.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So I guess I'm good, but just haven't watched Ed Wood and okay, I guess. Oh, well, what I'd like to do is kind of I guess I'll pick a movie actually from each one here. Well, first of all, War of the Worlds. I love this.
Oh yeah,
I
one of the
absolutely
drums.
love that. Love that for two reasons. One, I'd actually heard like the broadcast
Oh yes, from
that was
yes,
oh gosh, who was it?
Orson
Because it was a
Welles.
practical, yes, because it was a practical, but I heard it was a practical joke. I'm like, what?
Yes.
Because it's we're like listening to it in school and we're just like, this is pretty hardcore stuff. It sounds like all of this is happening. It was just
I can't
crazy.
believe he didn't go to jail for that.
I know. They're just like, he got away with doing that. And people were like calling the station and all of that. And we're like, it was nuts. But it's just the fact that the narration and the sound effects and everything were so realistic
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
it freaked people out. And I remember just reading, like his script, for lack of a better term, just reading that, and it was like, this is crazy.
Yeah. That's yeah, he was pretty ballsy for doing something like that.
Yes. Yes, kids. This was punked before it ever really it ever really became a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, War of the Worlds is just an incredible piece of cinema. Again, a lot of the effects that they used in that movie really pushed things along in the film industry. Um, and the story was just on point. And it wasn't an exact adaptation of the book. They did make some changes, but
Mhm.
what they made changes with worked for a 90-minute film.
Exactly, because I think what a lot of one of the things that I learned in my one of my English classes, I had to give my English teacher credit. He was like, if there's ever a movie or television show made from a book, well, he said movie, read the book, watch the movie, and then make the comparison and see what it is that they had to change in order to make it fit for a visual format, because some people are like, well, it wasn't completely faithful to the
Uh,
book. It's like, well, there's some things that you can't do in film to keep people's attention
exactly.
that you can, in the book. So sometimes it's just not possible. But yeah,
Yeah.
that I enjoyed War of the Worlds. That was another one of like my
Oh
favorite like
yeah.
retro movies showed up like on a Saturday. I'd go
Uh-huh.
and watch that. 2001: A Space Odyssey. This one,
Yeah. It is.
classic.
Oh yeah. It is a um it is just a masterpiece, and it's really interesting because there are quite a few people who have voiced their opinion about the film and have said it's too boring, it's too long, and they don't understand what's going on. And a lot of critics at the time when the movie came out, they really bashed that movie. I mean, they had some very nasty things to say about that movie, but uh,
Wow.
yeah, it was a box office bomb as well. And it's just over the years, people have gotten, um, have really had a great appreciation for it. And I just love the way it slowly tells the story, but it's the different ages, and it's, they don't exactly explain to you at the end what is happening. You can come up with your own conclusions, um,
Mm-hmm.
about what's going on. And and my conclusion was that it was a big alien experiment that they were, messing with mankind through the different ages, and in each case they were advancing mankind to get to the stage where they could go mankind could go to them, to Jupiter. And
Mm-hmm.
then they get this man and put him in sort of a scientific lab, where they can watch him. And I don't understand though, and I've had other people, what the space baby is all about. I think from what I gather, is that maybe the aliens have manipulated mankind so much that they've made this space baby, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a fun movie to watch and interpret. And I think the star of the movie is definitely the third part where we get to Hal, right?
Yes.
And that's where everybody is like, it's the most memorable and the most frightening, the most frightening part of the whole thing. So yeah, just a great movie. Love that movie.
I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, but it has been referenced so much in popular culture. And the soundtrack, I thought that it was very cool that they used classical music instead. I never listened to Swan Lake the same
Oh
ever since seeing
yeah,
in this
yeah,
movie.
yeah. I mean, it's a unique way to to use that kind of music, but it's another little aspect of of all this progress and change that you have. Like
Hmm.
music never seems to change. It's always it's classic. There's something about classical music that uh, that can be appreciated by people in the far future. 1,000 years from now, they can
Hmm.
appreciate Tchaikovsky.
Exactly. And I love it. I love it. Whenever somebody says like classical music is kind of dead, it's like, why is it no matter what movie it is, especially a modern movie, if there's some pretentious dinner party, they're playing Eine kleine Nacht music. They even used it in Star Trek Next Generation. They even used it then. Whenever there's just some kind of pretentious scene, you hear that. And it's like what, I think 300 years old or something like that. And
Yeah,
people still play it. People
yeah,
still
it
play
sets
it.
the mood.
I still love it though. I actually have that on digital download. That is what I love Mozart anyway, but that's one of my favorite pieces by him. let's see. So for let's see, for the '80s, that the Last Starfighter, I love that movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, that is a great movie. Another great one. Just as a kid, I wanted to be. I wanted to go into outer space. I wanted to be like a pilot in like Luke.
Hmm.
Luke Skywalker. And so this movie was sort of like that dream. You could play a video game and get chosen by the the Star League to fight against the Kodan Armada.
Hmm.
It's just sort of a fantasy come true on screen, and I felt like the main character. I could identify with him so much. Um, Kind of being not with his lifestyle and everything, but more like the dream of wanting to go to outer space and meet aliens and fight in a battle or something. So yeah, it is definitely one of the coolest movies from the '80s. That I don't think it gets enough love, out there. I think we should be talking about it more.
Is that the one with the Death Blossom move, or am I thinking about a different movie?
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow, I had to reach back in the memory banks for that one. It was like, why do I remember that?
That's
I
pretty
thought that
good.
scene
Yeah,
was hilarious. Oh, thank you. I just thought that scene was crazy. But
yeah.
I did love The Last Starfighter. I agree with you. It's like it doesn't really get enough. Well, I will say that no, it wasn't the Tomorrow War. Oh shoot, what was that movie that
Is it Edge of Tomorrow?
no, it wasn't The Edge of The Atom Project.
Okay,
This
I
was
saw
the
that.
movie that was on that. You saw that? Yeah, they had references to The Last Starfighter in it. I'm just like, okay, you guys saw that movie. All right. And I hadn't talked about The Last Starfighter in years. And
Yeah.
I'm watching this movie. I'm like, yeah, yeah, y'all saw that. Y'all saw that flick. Let's see. Oh, Osmosis Jones. I remember that one. That was a
Oh,
movie I did not expect to wind up watching, and I did anyway.
did you like it?
It was okay. It's like I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was kind of
Mhm.
there. Kind of like and I just it's kind of like the never ending story. I didn't like that one as much. It was kind of like, it was all right.
Yeah.
It's like it was okay. I know some people who just absolutely cannot stand it. I'm like, well, it wasn't that bad, but it's like I watched it once. I'm like, okay, I can say, I watched it, and that was the end of that. But Osmosis Jones was a fun watch. I did enjoy watching that one. I like that. I do remember Small Soldiers. I did like that one.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Oh yeah.
Heavy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I
Oh no,
interrupted.
I'm listening.
I know. Let's see. Heavy metal. I have never seen,
That
but I've heard
is
so
a
much about
lot.
it.
Yeah, that is a lot of fun. And just as like so to prep you for it, it's really well, the complaints that I hear a lot from people are the animation. And this was in 1981. So the animation's
Hmm.
a lot different from what we're used to now, where things are a lot smoother. And a lot of their animation was done through rotoscoping. And sometimes rotoscoping didn't always, it looked great sometimes, and then sometimes it didn't always look great. But
Mm.
I think the last sequence is probably I would say the reason why a lot of people watch heavy metal. It's the Ta'arna sequence. And it actually is the only sequence it's like the longest sequence, and it has tie-ins to the beginning. So it's like when you watch it, give it a little slack for the
Okay.
visual. Yeah, give it a little slack because it a lot of it there it's some of it is like when you stop the still, it looks like
Mm-hmm.
art, a beautiful art. But what they were trying to do is make it kind of like movable art, and they didn't quite get it because it was some of the movements are jumpy. So it's a little bit of
Ah.
adjustment to the eyes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it's still really good. It follows the journey of a small orb, or an orb that is the ultimate evil, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's traveling through space and time. There's one segment. Do you like zombies?
I love zombie movies.
Okay, there's a zombie sequence that you might really love, uh, because it has kind of the style of the 1940s and 1930s and 1940s,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of the best sequence in the. It's short, but it's really good. So I would encourage you to watch it, but
Oh, okay.
do consider that the animation may not always be smooth on everything.
Okay. So I have to think about it like, say, one of my favorite Godzilla movies where he like jumps up in the air, hangs sideways, and then and then he goes sideways. And it's one of the cheesiest effects ever. But we just freaking love it because it is the one of
Yeah, yeah,
just the cheesiest effects ever. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll have to check
It's
that
actually
out.
yeah.
It's a friend of mine. Actually, her talked about heavy metal. I'm like, what movie was that? She's like, "Oh, you've never seen heavy metal?" I'm like, "No, I have not. I haven't seen it because I wasn't really into fantasy like that." So she's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay, you have to see it." I'm like, okay, yeah, I saw it come up on Tubi, so I'll just put that on my list and
Oh yeah.
I'll
And
have
you
to
know
check that
who's
out.
in it? John Candy's voices a lot of the characters in it.
Really
So yeah, he voices a lot of
interesting.
the characters in it. So it will be kind of be interesting to hear, for you to hear his
Mm-hmm.
voice and some of the characters.
Okay.
So it's definitely got a funny side to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's one question I'm going to ask you. How is the 1956 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers compare to the remake? Because I have never seen the original. The first one I saw was the
Okay.
remake, which I actually liked. So
Hmm.
if
The
you've seen
remake is
both of
excellent.
them,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen both of them, and the remake is excellent. They actually make the story even better in the second one. But
Wow.
if you look at this, if you look at the first one, think of it like
Hmm.
that this is the prequel to the second one, and it will make sense completely because the main character in the 1956 version shows up in the 1978 version. So it's really sort of a prequel, if you will. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I definitely encourage you to watch it because again, you'll see, sort of those same incredible special effects that, low end special effects, but the story is where the aspect that really makes you pulls you in. The music, the mood, all those things are on display, and it's really, really, uh, really good. I mean, it's a great film. It's inspired a lot of people to become filmmakers.
I believe it. I mean, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is like I was fascinated and freaked out at the same
Oh
time.
yeah,
And God, I freaking loved it. I absolutely loved it. The ending, it's it's just like it was just something else to watch the ending. I was just like, something's not quite right at the end. And then that twist at the end, I'm like, ah, shoot. You know, it was just such an amazing
yeah,
twist ending. But yeah, I will definitely have to watch the original one. I'll have to watch that one. Have
yeah.
you seen oh my gosh, you probably have. I'm embarrassed to find out that I just actually watched part half of it last week. The movie They Live.
You know, I've seen. It's been a long time, but I've seen it. It is a good. It is good. It is good. It's one of those movies that I saw it back in the 80s, and it was like a shocker. You know, it's one of those things like,
Hmm.
wow, what is this, beautiful thing that I'm watching? It was so juicy. But for some reason, over the years, I haven't been able to revisit it, and which I will be again revisiting. But it's one of those things you can never forget. You can't unsee, obey, and
When he's putting the glasses on.
consume.
What? What?
Yeah, you can never unsee that.
Yeah, that one. I mean, I'd seen it in like I'd seen people use it in memes or use it in GIFs, and I'm just like, where is that from? They're like, oh, you've never seen They Live? I'm like, no, I can't catch everything. And then I happened to see, I think I was watching it on I think it was on Netflix. I started watching it, and that first scene where he puts the glasses on and he starts to see the messages, I'm like, oh man,
Oh yeah,
that was so freaky. I still have to finish watching it, but that scene, I'm like,
oh
that was the
yeah.
last thing that I expected, to
It's I mean, again, it's a social commentary, right? But it's also
absolutely.
like done in a way that helps to sell the fear and the tension. And I'm not sure how far you got to it, but he definitely has a freak out on, like he freaks out when he sees all this stuff, and that's part of the the
Hmm.
drama. And I won't spoil the end for you, but that's also very good. It's very good. All I will say is that it's very good.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I'm up to the part where, he's got the glasses on and he like sees, it's like literally they have no skin. And he's just like, he's
Yeah,
like, "What are you looking at, buddy?" And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." It's like, "Okay, don't let on that play it cool
yeah,
like
yeah,
you don't know." And it was crazy because then he starts looking around and just seeing, like, actually seeing for real what's going on. So that's where I stopped that. I can't even remember what. Okay, I'm gonna have to pick up and watch that. But that's where I stopped watching it. Where I think the reason I stopped watching it because I had to actually digest mentally that scene where it's
it's a lot.
kind of like the Matrix, where you
Yeah,
find out that
yep,
exactly what the Matrix is for real. And it's just like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. It's the
Ugh.
unveiling of the pretense of what everybody sees as the normal world, and it is a lot to digest. And the character is just, you know, I just love. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah, I can't wait to go back and go back and watch that one. Oh God, Big Trouble in Little China. I love that movie.
Oh
I
yeah. Oh
love
yeah.
that movie. Oh my gosh. It is one of just I love the 80s era of movies. It's
Yeah.
just movies that were just
They had something.
yeah, passion, fun. You just brought your popcorn and it was just there to entertain you. And I think I rewatched Big Trouble in Little China. I want to say maybe like a year ago, and I was like, man, this is a lot of fun. I remember this being so much fun to watch, especially to see to see Kurt Russell, and it was just an enjoyable, just fun flick.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a fun time from the beginning to the end. I mean, and his character is it is so much fun. Um, you know, he may seem to be like a dumb character because he doesn't really ever face anything really. He just
Mm-hmm.
sort of has his own belief in probably misplaced overconfidence, but it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I love characters like this. They kind of I know people like that in real life, and they're so much fun to be around. you know they have a way of lighting up the room, and they think that
Mm-hmm.
the world revolves around them, but it's still in a way that it does because they're fun, you know and the characters around him support him absolutely fantastic, in a fantastic way. um,
Mm-hmm.
and even though his buddy is really the real action hero, and he's still like gets to participate, and there's a real need for him in the story because he actually kills the bad guy. And so I love that, the way this movie was written,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, again, that's something that was done in the 80s, but I feel like it was done right.
I agree. It's such a good time and a good period piece. It's one of those movies that is on my DVD bucket list. It's like I have to acquire it. I must
Oh
acquire it. Not just that one, but another one that I see here, which is I hope they never remake it. That's how protective I am of this film, and that is Flash Gordon.
oh yeah, yeah. It's
That
so funny
movie.
because
Oh
oh,
no, go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead. Oh no, you had no. I go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the first of all, the fact that isn't that the one where the whole soundtrack is by Queen?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It is not the best movie, but it is the best movie, right? It's like it's
Yes.
so it's so good. The music, the bright colors.
Oh, the
Uh,
costumes, the
yeah,
set designs.
yes, the costumes. Max von Sydow, okay, just doing
And
his thing.
Ming the Merciless. I
He was incredible. I mean, I just loved that character, and I loved Flash Gordon too. I mean, and these are you know he was such an incredible character. Even the black and white version of Flash Gordon from the 30s and 40s. I had such
Mhm.
a big crush on when I was a little girl. I was like, oh, I want to grow up and marry Flash Gordon. And
Oh,
it's like, they that was, the beginning. He was like the first comic book, uh, you know, character in that really had his own movie and merchandise, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think they did a really good job in the 1980s to create this. And they've been talking for years about doing a remake, and Waititi was supposed to be attached to something.
Oh,
And
don't let
I
him touch
just,
it.
I'm not, yeah, I just don't have faith that the modern day would really honor Flash Gordon the way he's meant to be represented. I mean, did you ever see that TV show that they did of Flash Gordon back like in the early 2000s?
I don't think I saw it. I think I put a mental block because I didn't want my memories of the Flash Gordon movie spoiled because it was just such a box of 80s goodness
Yeah.
that I didn't it's like for the same reason that I didn't watch Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner for the longest time because as far as I
Oh.
was concerned, my Blade Runner is the Ridley Scott
Hmm.
version of a Blade Runner. So I think I only saw that movie like last year before Dune, and I was like, oh, well, that was okay.
I haven't
But I
seen it
just
yet.
did.
So.
It was. Let's put. I just think it was okay. It wasn't. It wasn't. Ridley Scott is one of he's just an elite filmmaker, and just the way that he used, just like the darkness and rain to create
Mhm.
that underworld, the way that he created the Decker character, the way that he created Rachel. It's just an
Yeah.
atmosphere that the remake just didn't capture. The remake just seemed like a lightened, cinematography wise, like a lightened version of it. It had an interesting twist at the end, but it didn't have to me the grittiness of the Ridley Scott version of Blade Runner, and that's what prevented me really from going, from checking it out. But like you, I don't really trust Hollywood to make a faithful remake of
Right.
a Flash. It's so over the top. There are things you just have to tell your brain to just shut up because you're gonna enjoy it. This is good for you. I just don't. I don't think that they could do that, especially considering how much of a cult favorite movie that is.
Yeah. I agree. And I did not see the sequel movie, and I don't really have a reason why. It looked good to me as far as like the visuals that I was seeing. I was like, wow, he seems to be capturing
Hmm.
some unique stuff, like modernized version of some of the stuff. But yeah, I need to make my review for Blade Runner first before I watch that movie. Because it
Yeah,
just like I want to fully enjoy it, and then I can appreciate the next 30 years. I'm I guess I'm one of the weird people who thought that I didn't really want to see Rachel again, and I heard she was in the film, and then I really like the idea of Deckard being a robot as well. I don't know. I know that a lot of people didn't like that idea, but even still, I just didn't want him in the movie. Yeah.
yeah. I
I
didn't.
just
I couldn't. I didn't really like it making him a replicant because for me, maybe because I was stuck on the original, but the dynamic between Decker as a human falling in love, for lack of a better term, with a replicant, I like that dynamic. So when I finally saw this movie, I was like, okay, I'll allow it. We'll see where you go with it. But when I originally heard it, I was kind of like, Decker is a replicant. I, okay. It just, I mean, in the context of the film and the way that they went, okay, I can
Yeah,
see why they did it that way.
yeah. I don't even like when it comes to the way he fixed the way the first movie kind of ended. It was sort of,
Hmm.
you can make your own conclusion as to what was going on.
Right.
And so I think, and all of that is a lot, like totally like cool. But then I was kind of like, why are we going? He won his battle. He won his his chance to be free in the outer rim, right? And I was
Hmm.
kind of like upset that they were pulling Deckard back into the story again, based
Hmm.
on the trailer and all that stuff. I wanted to see a continuation, but not with a brand new character.
Hmm.
I wanted it either a new story with Deckard as the main character, or just a new character by himself, like not even involving Deckard. And so I've heard that it's okay, so I will watch it, but I don't know. I still feel like I don't want to.
And I don't, and I don't blame you. It's kind of, I, I kind of try to explain this to people. Blade Runner had a whole different vibe and feel to it and cult following. And then you get a filmmaker who's not necessarily an action filmmaker, is more of like an artiste type of filmmaker.
Yeah,
That's exactly who Denis
yes.
Villeneuve is like. I mean, I saw Dune. I had no
Yeah.
problem with it. I actually liked it, and I'm the person
Oh,
that likes
yes.
the David Lynch version of
Me
Dune.
too.
I will always love the David Lynch version of Dune. I didn't even watch the television series because I'm just like, no, don't forget it. I just, no, I like
I
the David
did.
Lynch version.
So, you didn't
When
miss much.
it was great. I love it. It had its issues, but I loved it for what it was. And then the new Dune movie comes out, and I thoroughly did enjoy it. I really did. I
Yeah.
liked it, and Denis Villeneuve's directive style actually fits that type of narrative. But for Blade Runner, it with that, I just felt like there was so much action that was missing that was in the original. And I think that kind of like what took me out of it and what didn't make me anxious to watch it until a friend of mine said, well, it's okay. And he's a big, 80s movie person. He was like, "It was okay. I think it's worth your time to check out." I'm like, "Okay, well, since you said so, I'll go and watch it." But I wasn't running to the movies to watch it. I wasn't like waiting on the edge of my seat, to watch it. I had to basically be, you know, cajoled into watching it. It didn't draw me. You know
It's,
how
yeah.
like movies have to like draw you, and it just didn't do that for me.
Yeah. Like, I mean, uh, trailers, I don't know what is going on with trailer companies, but for some reason, trailers aren't really exciting me about movies so much anymore. There are a couple of them that I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, that looks good. But I noticed these days they give you more of the movie before you see it. And it's like, well, I kind of know what that movie is now. So yeah, I mean, I didn't exactly, and I still am like kind of dragging my feet on watching uh, Blade Runner, the second Blade Runner. Uh, it just, um, like I said, the images look really pretty, uh, and they look great. I love sci-fi, so this is probably up my alley. But it's not really making me feel uh like like the 1982 version
Mm-hmm.
of Blade Runner. Um, it just isn't giving me that feeling of Blade Runner. It feels like a sci-fi movie, but not Blade Runner. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, you're exactly right. It's like there's the science fiction element, but it doesn't have the flavor of Blade Runner. And I think that's what a lot of remakes tend to miss these days. They miss getting what made the original. I mean, the remake will never be the original, but the remake should have enough in it that gives you those nostalgic feelings about the original
Yes, yes.
and pays tribute to the original. For some reason, it seems like that's very difficult for Hollywood to do these days. And I don't know if it's, and this is a good question, for you. Do you think it's because either they don't know how to write the story or that they're just so invested and think that special effects should sell it to us?
Oh, um,
I know, loaded question, right?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think like we can do anything with this. You know, you've got a limited, an unlimited budget to do anything you want, and so people are like, okay, we can get the biggest stars, we can get the biggest, the best, special effects people to work on our um, the CGI character,
Hmm.
and they don't really consider, okay, we need tension, we need drama. Where is that coming from? We need a three-act structure. We need we need to have a character arc, and
Hmm.
you don't always need a character arc. Like, for instance, Indiana Jones or James Bond, they usually don't go through a character arc, but it's sort of the uh, going through this adventure that with the audience that's kind of missing from a lot of these things. It's they're focused on like shocking you with gore or extreme, like how far can we go here to really shock the audience. But most people are like, okay, that's cool, but where's the story? Why aren't, people are dying and we're cracking jokes? Like, what's that all about? Like, we're not really engaging with uh, character growth.
Right.
We're not
Absolutely.
engaged with, yeah, and you know, just building up that tension, like we were talking about with the creature from the Black Lagoon. Like, don't show us everything. Imply some
Hmm.
things, because that's even scarier. Like, you hear a girl screaming and you hear banging, and then the room next
Right.
door, you can only imagine what's happening. It's horrifying.
Hmm.
And
Exactly. Exactly.
what do you, yeah, you don't have to see anything. And maybe at the end you see, like, you see all the gore at some point, but you don't have to show us everything happening always. And you save a few dollars on special effects, but build even better fear and concern
Hmm.
by not showing it to us. Um, as far as this whole thing of just getting pop music from the 80s and the 90s and just shoving it, or the 70s, and just shoving it in your film instead of actually creating music for the film like they did for Fame and Footloose. They actually made songs for those movies. They
Exactly.
hired Flashdance. They hired Irene Cara to make a special song for the movie. They, you know, and that kind of, like, put that kind of care into it, because if I could just go to the radio and hear Guns N' Roses, why am I, watching it with your film? It's like, okay, that's interesting, but can I have a score? Can I have a score with an actual composer? So there's a lot of things that is going on right now in cinema that is great, but there's a lot of stuff as far as story wise is just makes me like, okay, why uh,
Right.
why are your characters the way they're acting, and you haven't given us enough excuse for their behavior, you know? And so it's it's very interesting. And I don't know if I have all the answers to it, but I'm learning about it. I haven't gone through every single movie to discover all the
Hmm.
answers, but you know, even for like a movie that maybe you don't really like very much, that was done a long time ago. It if you go
Hmm.
back and you like watch it again and watch the characters, I'm gonna be you'll find something interesting in those characters and how they mature throughout the film. Even if
Hmm.
you have a character that's always stoic, there's still a journey. The person who's going through the character arc is sometimes the audience. So, like in a James Bond film, you're going through the part where you're like, okay, we know something's going on. We have to figure it out with James Bond. He figures it out. There are some action sequences of tension. Possibly a bad guy that he cannot fight. He can always beat, and maybe he
Hmm.
it the the henchman is a formidable person. He has to use his brain. He has to use his intellect to get through this moment, and
Yeah.
to kind of navigate his way through an obstacle course to get to the bad guy. It's 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 a journey. It's sort of like Jason and the Argonauts, or Jason and the the um, the Golden Fleece. He's got to go through this journey to get to somewhere. And so a lot of times we're not clear on where we're getting to in a lot of movies. Like, where are we going to? You
Exactly.
know, where is this leading up to? And you don't want to like be like it's an hour and 50 minutes, and you're still wondering, okay, who's the bad? Who's the bad guy? Where are we going? What are we doing?
Hmm.
We've gone through all of these action sequences, because action
Hmm.
sequences can't just make your movie. So anyway, I'm sorry, I went on a rant there.
No, no, no. It's interesting that that you mentioned that. I'm like showing your social media right now. It's interesting that you should mention that because there was a movie that I saw, and you know what? It's actually there's a movie that I saw recently to wipe the taste out of my mouth of Halloween Ends, which was so bad. It doesn't deserve to be in the Halloween franchise for pretty much all of the reasons that you
Oh,
described.
that's what I
I
heard.
oh, I just I'm just like whoever thought this was a good idea, don't ever let them touch movie ever again, because you took an iconic character, took him out of really who he is in Halloween Kills, and just made it worse in Halloween Ends. Well, I saw a movie called The Black Phone, which is a horror movie, not a gory horror movie. It's very psychological. Basically, this guy called the Grabber is going around, kidnapping kids. And it feeds into that fear of a time where it was like, oh my God, what if somebody on the street, kidnaps me or something like that. Well, this one kid does wind up being kidnapped, and he's in this basement, and there's this phone that rings. And when he picks up the phone, he's talking to one of the kids who was actually dead, but he's talking to them, and they're like giving him clues about what happened to them, and you're so invested in this character
Wow.
that every time the phone rings you're like, okay, who is it, who is it, what's going on? And you don't put, it's like these pieces you don't see right away. You're just invested in, is this kid going to get out of this basement, is this kid going to survive? And that's, you get sucked into that, and you go along the journey of this kid. You're also along the journey of, you know, the grabber, who he is and what his motivation is. And you're brought along on this whole journey through this movie that by the end, the climax is so, I mean, the resolution is so satisfying because you get caught up in it. And it's just like the way that movies used to be, that take you on, you know, this emotional journey, that give you characters that aren't throwaway characters. Each character has a reason for existing. And movies aren't made like that, unfortunately. And I think this is why retro movies are so popular.
Oh yeah. Yeah. People are noticing how efficient those things were. Like I did a review for recently for Planet of Vampires that was done in 1965. Okay. And
Wow.
that movie is so short, but there's so much in the movie. So much. And you understand where, you know, where the characters, what the characters are doing, why they're doing it.
Mhm.
And there is a
Mhm.
bit of like ominous kind of thing to the ending, like you
Mhm.
that you kind of have to determine for yourself. Everybody's left to their determination, but along the journey, you see what's going on clearly, you know. So it's kind of interesting how people they were able to get these stories, put them together for a shorter movies that had more impact, you know.
Mhm.
So like Conan the Barbarian. Well, that one was, I think that one was a little, it was like, it
I
was a,
remember that movie.
yeah, it's a good movie. That is I mean, I wouldn't have said that like a year ago, but after looking at that movie through and through, it is a masterpiece. I mean, it's really good. Um, but it seems like a dumb sword and sorcery movie. Really, I mean, you're like, oh yeah, that's a,
Mhm.
you know, that made a lot of money, but it really was well put together. Well put
Mhm.
together. But they had something in the 80s that you just that that and even in the 70s that you just can't, that we seem to have lost. And I think some of it was starting to, we were starting to lose it during the sort of the CGI age, where it kind of became more about the special effects. Oh, well, we have special
Mhm.
effects to tell the story. Um, and a lot of times, you know, let's take a movie like Spy Kids, which I love,
Mhm.
but it's
It was
like
cheesy fun.
it's fun, and it's like, but it's definitely one of those things where there might have been a way for you to make Spy Kids with that was more reality based, and and I think it would have been even, you know, more of a classic. You know, people would have regarded it as a uh, uh, higher on the food chain, if you will. But because it was done sort of like in the CGI thing, it
Mhm.
really gets a bad rap, you know. But again, it was also on the positive note on that. It was sort of like testing the waters. You kind of needed movies like that
Mhm.
to play around with CGI to see what was kind of possible. And nowadays you can do anything, but we've lost the storytelling aspect, you know.
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed, kind of like to wrap it up a little bit. It's something that I've noticed with Pixar movies. Like Toy Story, I absolutely loved that
Oh,
movie because all it did was use CGI and computer animation to tell an amazingly great story. It's like the
oh yeah.
toys all behaved like toys, even down to like the barrel of monkeys, and they ran out of monkeys. They had to go get more. They had to get more monkeys. Mr. Spell, who was concerned, about battery erosion. I mean, that was like a real thing, for him. But it seemed like further on down the years, Pixar seemed to get more into how much CGI could they put into a film and have forgotten the story.
Hmm.
And that's what John Lasseter used to talk about before they pushed him out, where he kept talking about it's always about the story. And it was to the point where Pixar characters were more popular than the Disney characters in the
Oh
parks.
yeah. Yeah.
And they were just having that happen just was to the power of how well Pixar was good at storytelling. Well, now that's not really it. Like with Lightyear, I wasn't interested in seeing that. I was just like, the
Right.
story just doesn't. It should have been such a simple story to tell, but it didn't work, and it's really sad. But unfortunately, that seems to be where Hollywood is going now. People more wrapped up in the CGI than the story. But what I will say is for those people who are very smart, they will realize that CGI is only the tool that you use. Just a tool, that's it,
Yeah.
to
Pretty
help the story, you know, along. So
much.
ah, I love this discussion. We could talk like for hours, but I first of all, thank you so much for being here. I just had a blast talking about some of these movies and films. And you have a really really wonderful channel. So please tell people where
Yeah.
they can find you, what you've got coming up on your channel that you'd like to let folks know about.
Well, I am working on the Planet of the Apes, 1968.
No way.
Yes. It is so much fun working
Oh,
on that one. I'll be so excited to finish it. It'll probably be in another 2 weeks. Um, but yeah, I'm working on that, and just follow head over to Retro Nerd Girl on YouTube, and make sure to subscribe. And I will be coming out with videos very soon.
okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, folks, please do subscribe to Retro Nerd Girl on her YouTube channel. I've got her YouTube channel, her Twitter, and also her Instagram down there in the description box of this video. So please do check out all her social media links. Subscribe to her. She's got amazing, amazing stuff going on. And again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Drop a comment, let us know how you liked it, and also let me know who else you would like to have me feature on the after school special. So with that said, folks, we will see you next time. Bye.
Hi.